I am so excited to be here today with my coach, mentor, and friend to talk all things mental performance at the Olympic level. For those of you in the paddling world, this man needs no introduction, but for everybody else, I'm here with Larry Cain. He is a gold and silver medal Olympian in C1, a 3-time Olympian, member of the national team for 17 years, holds 75 Canadian titles, coached the national team for 2 years, is a member of the Order of Canada, multiple halls of fame. I could go on. Anywho, he still competes internationally. He runs a company called Paddle Monster where he coaches, and we're very lucky to have him here today to find out more about the mental game. Thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
Thanks. So, when did you believe that you could be an Olympian, be at the Olympics at that level?
The first idea I had about being in the Olympics was when I was 13 years old. I was watching the Olympics in 1976 on television, and a Canadian from this area won a silver medal in the C1, the single canoe.
Right.
And that was the boat that I'd already started paddling, and I turned to my parents and I said, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Was fortunate paddling at a club where I had really good role models, older paddlers I could train with, and really good coaches. So there's really good direction. In 1980, I just missed being selected for the Olympic team. I traveled to Europe with the team to a bunch of World Cups.
Right.
And, I was racing in a World Cup race in Germany, in Duisburg, Germany. And I made the final in the 1,000 meter C1, and I came 5th, only about 3 seconds off the winner. And I was racing like people that were legends in the sport, people
Right.
that my hero John Wood, who won that silver medal in Montreal, had raced against.
Right.
And I was only 17 at the time, and that it became very clear to me that goal that I had, the dream that I had since the day I watched him win his silver medal, was realistic.
Amazing. So what did pressure feel like to you on the Olympic starting line? If you could describe it.
I had 3 Olympic experiences, and so each one was a little bit different. The first one in many ways was the best one. I didn't feel a lot of pressure on the starting line. I remember being focused on doing what I could do the best that I could do it rather than on the outcome.
Yeah.
But I do remember feeling like I was ready. I told myself, I am ready, that if somebody's going to beat me today, they're going to have
Right.
like one amazing
They better
race
bring it.
because I'm really ready.
That's
and
awesome.
So there was no thought of I need to win this race. I have to get on the podium. There was nothing like that. It was simply a matter of I wanted to go fast.
Yeah.
And I felt very ready to go fast, and I just thought that I do remember I was in lane 7 in the race that I won, and I remember looking to my left and seeing 6 paddlers, and looking to my right and seeing 2,
Yeah.
and knowing that I had raced against all of them and beaten all of them at one time or another.
Right.
And so, the thought crossed my mind, why shouldn't it be me? But it was more of a focus on just doing the best.
Doing your best.
That I absolutely best that I can.
Yeah.
And I think when you think that way, it removes pressure from you that you might otherwise feel, certainly that
Yeah.
you would feel if you were thinking of a result,
Yeah.
because all you have to do is go and do what you've trained to do.
Yeah.
And whatever the outcome is, you're going to live with it.
Yeah.
And I took the same approach to the starting line in 1988. Unfortunately, I didn't have the same form when I arrived in Seoul that I had when I arrived at the Olympics in #84.
Yeah.
I had been struggling a bit in training. I hit a bit of a wall. So I didn't at that point believe that I could actually win. I didn't think I had the form to win. So, and I had a really good race. I was 3rd for most of the race and just lost 3rd place at the end. And really, it wasn't anything that I did. It was the Bulgarian who ended up coming 3rd, passed me, but he was riding the wash of the Soviet guy who was quite a bit in front.
Yeah.
Which you're not supposed to do, but people
Yeah.
would get away with. And
Gotcha.
so it was a really good performance. Nothing I could do about the result. I felt good about the effort that I put in.
That's awesome.
And then in '92, I raced doubles. That was a more frustrating experience because I don't think my partner and I were on the same page
Right.
mentally, really. I was the guy that really wanted to focus on process, not on results, but I really believe that when you're racing at the Olympics, it's a level above a normal race, and with that, you bring a certain level of excitement with you to the starting line. And I was a guy that relished that, and I don't know whether he was as much.
Yeah.
And so I don't think we're in the same headspace, and as a result, too, I don't think we worked really well together in the boat.
Yeah, and it's hard when another person's involved, right? Like you don't have any control over what
It's two
their
people that
process
have to
is,
race
right?
as one.
Yep.
And, you really have to be of, the same body and mind to do that, I think, really well.
Yeah.
And it's hard because people are individuals. I appreciate what he was going through, and I appreciate more now with the experience I've had coaching that
Right.
some people in the biggest moments, they try to talk their excitement level down a little bit because they don't want to be overwhelmed by the situation. And other people like the excitement of the big race, the big game, the big opportunity, and they're able to focus on process and doing exactly what they do in training, but they do it at an even higher level because of the stage that they're doing it on.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think we never talked about that really,
Yeah.
And all of a sudden we found ourselves in the starting line, and it felt like we were in two different places. So that was disappointing.
Well, I have a beach volleyball duo that I've been coaching for a while now, and it's so intimate how they play together on the sand. And I just love that they're both talking about the same mental skills, the same language. We're talking in the sessions, so they're, expressing themselves to each other. Like, I think it's really helpful to have that.
I think we would have done well to have had somebody working with us on an ongoing basis. There was a sports psychologist around the team at that time, but it was the kind of thing where they would show up at the big races and they'd observe as much as they'd help. What we really needed was, I think, somebody who could anticipate that we might not end up being on the same page when it mattered most, and who could work with us on a day-to-day basis to make sure that we always were on the same page.
Yep.
And, I mean, it's live and learn.
Has there ever been a time when you were competing where you lost focus?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's, I've some horror stories about losing focus in races when it mattered most. And, strangely enough, too, like one example I can share with you, which is probably the worst one, wasn't when I was a young athlete who didn't know any better. Okay. So in 1987, I was racing at the World Championships again in Duisburg, Germany. It was where we ended up racing a lot. It was the 1,000-meter final, and I was really excited about this race, and I went to the starting line focused on process, not outcome.
Yep.
And I had a great start. I settled into a really good traveling pace. I was leading at the 250. I was leading at the 500. I was leading at the 750. And I say this not like I didn't really get excited about it until I was going through the 750. And the thing with Duisburg is the course is this long, narrow, man-made basin.
Okay.
With tall trees on the side of it. It's like a tunnel almost that you're paddling down. The grandstands on the left side of the course as you're coming down stretch almost up to the last 250.
Okay.
So all of a sudden, when you get to 250 meters left, you're out of the trees and you're in the grandstands and the boathouses, and the finish line looks so close.
Right.
So close.
Yep.
And so I let my focus shift from next stroke to, I remember the thought crossed my mind, like, I'm going to win this. And as soon as I let that thought creep into my mind, things got tougher. Right. To that point, it had been like easy.
Right.
There's 250 meters left. Everybody in the world always makes a big charge in the last, couple of hundred meters, especially in a world championship final. And so no surprise. 200 meters left. I can feel boats coming up on me. 150 meters left. I'm still ahead, but I can feel them coming up on me.
Yep.
And what happens? I start to get tight.
Yep.
Because I let my focus go from next stroke to I'm going to win this.
Right.
And as soon as you think that, as soon as you think about the result, as soon as you think about winning, and you suddenly feel pressure from the other competitors, now all of a sudden you're worried about not winning. Like as soon as you think about winning,
Right.
you've got something to lose.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you end up being more focused about what you could lose
Yeah.
than just doing what you're supposed to do.
Shit.
With 100 meters to go, I was probably getting passed for first. With 50 meters to go, I was still on the podium. At the finish line, I was fifth. And that was just like devastating. And I don't know that I would have held on to win
Yeah.
had I kept my focus,
Yeah.
because the guys I was racing against were really good. And like I say, everyone always makes a big charge at the finish. And I did go out hard.
Yep.
And maybe even if I'd maintained my focus, I might have, not been able to hang on to first, but I'm 100% certain I would have been on the podium.
Yeah.
That was a debacle that was entirely of my own making.
Yeah.
I knew better.
Yeah.
So, things happen
It's hard, right?
to athletes, even when they know better.
Yep.
And, I can't appreciate this more now than I could at the time, because, as a coach, I've seen it happen to athletes, and just as a sports
Yeah.
fan,
Yeah.
I watch the NBA championships or, something like that, and
Yep.
where the stakes are at the highest level, and you see people miss free throws that they don't normally miss, or they just
Exactly,
people
right?
make mistakes.
Yep. Yep.
And they're human beings, and even the best,
Yeah.
and even the ones that do a really good job 99% of the time with the mental side of things, occasionally mess up.
Absolutely.
And that was my turn to mess up.
Absolutely.
So I think the lesson out of it all is that you no matter how experienced you are, you really have to commit to the process of doing your mental work, and you have to be ironclad focus
Yeah.
on process, not outcome,
Right.
when you're competing.
Yeah.
And it is hard because, there are distractions. In my sport, actually, the distractions aren't that great because you're up the course away from other people. You're largely alone, other
Yeah.
than the 8 other people
Yep.
or other boats in the race with you.
Yep.
If you're a pro athlete playing in front of a crowd, you're interacting with all the other players, the officials, the crowd. Like I can
Yep.
see it
There's a
being,
million
yeah, right.
distractions,
Like
right?
I can see it being,
Yeah.
easy for things to come off the rails,
Yeah.
but you need to be stronger than that mentally.
Yep. Did it take you a while to process that after the race and after you came home?
Well, I knew I
was it
messed.
not too bad?
I knew right away that I'd messed up, and
Yeah.
I knew what my mistake was.
Yeah.
It took me a while to get over it.
Did it?
Like it was really. I've lost races before and been able to look at the Olympics in '88 when I came fourth.
Yeah.
That's disappointing to be close to a medal and not actually getting it. But it was the best race that I could have had that day. I did everything right. I'd maintained my focus rock solid, and
Yeah.
I just got passed by guys who were better on the day.
Yeah. So after coaching athletes at the national level, what is it that you think that separates the ones who really do well versus the ones who make the team but don't actually make it to a podium or make it?
I think there's a number of things that separate the people that the champions at the highest level from
Yeah.
those that make a team and get the track seat.
Right.
One of the things isn't so much what happens at the competition, it's what happens every day when they wake up in the morning. I think that the people who end up performing the best when it matters the most, the people who do the best in the sport that they've chosen,
Yeah.
are the ones that have a real sense of belief in their ability to achieve the goals they've set for themselves. They wake up every morning and they're willing to pay the price in training. They train with a mental intensity as well as a physical intensity. day in and day out. There's a real consistency with that.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
have habits of champions. The things you do on a day after day after day, they compound. You become better and better. And I think that the people who don't get to that level, they can make a team. In this country, they can make an Olympic team, but they don't,
Right.
they don't make a final, or they don't,
Right.
they don't get off the bench and, whatever.
Yeah.
I think they just don't do that as well.
Yeah.
It's a harsh thing to say, but
Yeah, I believe that.
the people that do perform the best are better at being an athlete day after day after day. They're more
Yeah.
consistent. They are just simply better. So there's that. And then the other thing is what happens when you get to where you need to perform. And the people that do the best and sort of follow through with what their, the abilities that they brought to the competition with them
Yeah.
are the ones that are able to, focus on the objective, focus on process, not outcome, just zone out the distractions, feel the enormity of the moment and feed off of that in a
Right.
positive way,
Yep.
rather than sort of try to talk themselves out of the, you're at the Olympics,
fact
like
that
you're at the Olympics, like be excited about it,
Yeah, yeah.
but focus, do what you're gonna do and do what you do and do it as well as you possibly can by focusing on doing what you do.
Yes.
Don't try to talk yourself out of the fact like it's just another
Yeah.
race. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I think the people who are really good are able to be excited about the fact that they're racing in at the Olympics, or they're competing for a championship or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And they rise to the occasion because of that.
Yeah.
But they don't get in their own way because they have the same focus
Yeah.
that they
Same
practice day in
routines.
and
They're
day out.
doing
They
what
stick
they
to the
always
routine.
do.
They focus on the process.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
in terms of giving their effort, it's very much like flicking a switch and
Yeah.
just their program.
They just do what they do.
Right? There's a whole lot of juice behind that program when you know that you're doing it
Right.
in a championship or
Yeah.
at the Olympics
Yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever.
Did you find it different at your third Olympics versus your first one? Like how you felt and how?
Well, yeah, I did. I mean, again, at my third Olympics, I was racing in doubles with a partner who it was his first Olympics, and I don't know, we never talked about
Right.
what we each felt like. Yeah, I do remember before we raced watching, the rowers are always the week before the canoers
Okay.
and kayakers.
Yeah.
But we watched it on television.
Right.
Canadian men's 8, if I remember correctly, won a
Okay.
gold medal. And I was really excited because it was amazing watching people from Canada
Yeah.
come through when it counts and
Yeah.
winning a gold medal. I still get excited when I
achieve.
watch
Yeah,
this,
yeah,
right?
of course.
And I said to Dave, oh, that's amazing. Isn't that amazing? Doesn't that make you feel like going out and doing it now?
Yeah.
And he was really quiet. He'd been really quiet through the whole thing. He goes, no, not really. He says, the race
Yeah.
will come soon enough.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, how can he,
Yeah.
we're at the,
What's
Olymp-
up
we're at
with
the
that?
Olympics, buddy. And again, different individual, different approach,
Yeah.
different. Maybe that's the way he had to process
Yeah.
racing. But I think it illustrates the fact that we weren't on the same page, and
Right.
and we didn't. In retrospect, right? In hindsight, I would have used that as a moment to, grab the sports psychologist and sit
Yeah.
us both down and say, help us get our act together so we're on the same page.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
And
exactly.
I didn't do that. I just kind of hoped that it would all
Yeah.
work out.
What's something that you think every athlete gets wrong?
I don't know that every athlete gets things
Yeah.
wrong. I mean, I look at.
What's
I'm
a
a- I'm a
common
s-
thing?
I'm a sports fan, and I watch, and I see a lot of athletes do pretty much everything right. But I think a common mistake
Yeah.
that people make,
Yeah.
that athletes make, is again, I'll go back to the bit about the day to day.
Yeah.
I see it in people I coach
Right.
or have coached. I see it in people that I train with. I see it in people or have trained with over the years. I see it in just athletes that I've watched from a little bit more of a distance with no personal involvement with them. I've watched them
Yeah.
prepare or how they conduct themselves on a day to day.
Yeah.
And I just think that, a lot of athletes don't do enough.
Yeah.
You know, they don't make enough of a commitment, and they're making a huge commitment. But if you're making the level of commitment that you're making, and you're spending a ton of money doing it, you're delaying your education, you're delaying your work career, then you got to go all the way.
Yeah.
And I think there are
Yeah.
athletes that, kind of go 80%, 85%, 90% of the way, and they don't go all the way. And by all the way, I really mean, like, you got to explore every possibility to get better.
Yeah.
And when you and maybe your coach discover that you've turned over a stone and what is underneath is something that really matters,
Found something.
you have to do that and
Right.
do it like really well. You have to do all the things that are important really, really well. And you have to do that day after day.
Yeah.
And I think what athletes miss is that, on a day-to-day basis, I think a lot of them forget basically what their goal is. And they if I believe that if they actually remembered what their goal was every day, and they asked themselves at the end of the day, did I do everything I possibly could today to have furthered my myself towards that goal, they'd probably say, yeah, you know what, I didn't. I could have done things better.
Yeah.
But I just don't think they ask those questions enough.
Yeah.
So I think that's,
Yeah.
that's the thing. Young recreational athletes too, people, young athletes that aren't thinking about going to the Olympics, I think they often they want to win.
Yeah.
Or they want to get a medal. And that's the way they set their goals, and they're just starting from, if the goal setting is the first thing, and then you do all the training is what you do to achieve the goal, they started off in the wrong direction right away.
Exactly.
So I think that's a big mistake.
And I have to say, like, when I'm coaching athletes, a big part of what we talk about is figuring out what you should be focusing on. And, if you have to write it on sticky notes by your bathroom mirror, put it up somewhere in your bedroom where you see it all the time. And because you need to be thinking about your goals
100%.
if you have big goals.
When I was a kid in school, after watching John Wood win that silver medal at the Olympics in Montreal and saying to my parents, that's what I want to do, I started writing my name and future Olympic champion on every paper or test that I handed in school.
That's awesome.
And I didn't care what anyone thought if they saw me do it.
Yeah.
I think it's worth, like, reaffirming your commitment to your goal.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I used to do is I used to know what all my, results were in my various fitness tests, and what my scores were, and how much I could lift, how fast I could run a mile, how fast I could run a 5K.
Yeah.
All these things. And I was always setting little goals in all these areas to try to do them better, thinking that, like, if I can be fitter, if I can be stronger, it's going to help me be faster. So, and
always writing things down. Like, you have a lot of journals and stuff at home, right?
Yeah.
And
I have
I always tell my people, I'm like, you are 42% more likely to achieve your goals if you write it down.
I've recorded all my training since January 1st, 1979.
That's awesome.
I still record it. They're constantly in my face. I'm constantly aware of them, and I'm constantly, everything I do is intentional.
Yes, exactly.
And that's not to say you can't just go and enjoy it, because that's intentional too.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to create, I don't want to, at this point in my life, set goals that I'm not going to enjoy the process of achieving.
Right.
If you want to be good, there needs to be intentionality in what you do.
Okay. Some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Who was the best coach you've ever had?
Okay, so I'll say that my best coach that I had was a guy by the name of Jim Reardon.
Okay.
He was my coach from 1978-ish to 1988. I had some other really good coaches as well. Thomas Budai Sr. comes to mind. He was fantastic, a wonderful, wonderful person. But if I was Thomas coaching me, the athlete I was, from 88 to 92 and 92 to 96, I wouldn't have made me train with the 20-year-olds.
Right.
I would have recognized that you were dealing with an older athlete who didn't need to do the same stuff that the 20-year-olds needed to do. And if he tried,
Right.
he was going to burn out.
Right.
And I was a willing participant in that. But I really needed a coach who's going to save me from myself a little bit.
Yeah.
And,
Yep. I think that's
neither of us
right?
saw that. And so, that would be a mark against him. But,
Got it.
Jim pretty much always knew what the right formula was.
Yeah.
And I had a good working relationship with both of them. So
Awesome.
it's tough to answer that question.
Who's your toughest competitor?
My toughest competitor was probably a guy by the name of Ivan Klementiev. Was from the Soviet Union when I raced him, but he is now a member of parliament in Latvia. I keep track of him on Facebook, and he keeps track of me.
Yeah, that's cool.
Sometime around like maybe 86, 87, he started to race C1,
Yeah.
1,000 meter, and he was really good at it. So he won in 88 and 89 at the World Championships. And I beat him a number of times in World Cups, but he always beat me at the Olympics or the Worlds. I had the good fortune of being able to train with him on a few occasions for weeks at a time in Florida. He's a really good guy to train with.
Cool.
Really nice person, super competitor, great sportsman.
That's awesome.
So yeah, he would be the toughest guy that I raced.
Do you have a favorite Olympic moment?
Yeah, I mean, winning a medal and standing on the podium is a really big moment.
Yeah.
But, in all honesty, probably more fun for me was doing the commentary when Adam Vancouver won a silver medal in London and Mark Oldershaw won a bronze medal that was not necessarily expected.
Okay.
And seeing the look in his face when he crossed the finish line and realized he won his bronze, and being the guy that was able to describe that race, I think was a really, it was a privilege, and it was very exciting, obviously. And so, that was a really cool Olympic moment. I don't think it always has to be about you and your race. I think there's a lot of amazing stories every time.
Spoken like a good coach.
Every time the Olympics come around, there's a lot of drama
always,
and
there's always some great moments, right?
At the Olympics, and that was one that it was a great moment, one that I'm sure Canadians were captivated by, and I was involved in obliquely by being the guy that was in the commentary booth.
Awesome. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I've received a lot of advice. It's hard to know what the best is, to pull that one out of thin air. I remember my first coach, who started the canoe club in Oakville and then ended up getting Jim Reardon to work with me when he realized that I was, he could only take me so far.
Right.
I remember he instilled in me a competitive spirit. And this is going to sound like it's contrary to the focusing on process, not outcome, but I think you have to have a hunger to win,
right?
If you're an athlete. That doesn't mean that's what you think about when you're on the starting line. But everything that you do in your training is geared towards your goal, and your goal is usually to I've already said it shouldn't be to win. It shouldn't be to win this race or that race, but you set a performance goal in the hopes that it's going to be enough. That when I say the results take care of themselves, that you're going to be, the results are going to be good to you. I just remember, he told me, if you can't win, then you do everything you possibly can to come second. If you can't come second, then you scratch and claw and fight to come third. And if you can't come third, then, you better damn well come fourth. And if you can't come fourth, then, you know what I mean? It instilled a no quit mentality. Yeah. And
fight for it.
Yeah, to fight for it. And also that, I've been, if you just look at the Olympics, I've been first, I've been second, I've been fourth, I've been seventh, I've been ninth. Right? The whole gamut.
Right.
There's not one of those races where I quit.
Right.
Well, oh, I'm not going to win. And like every single one of those races, that good or bad, that was the best that I could have done on
Yeah.
that day. And so I think that, getting that message at a very early age,
young
like when I
age,
was like
right?
13, 14,
Yeah.
I think was really important. And that sort
Yeah.
of set me up well for everything that I did after that.
Okay. If we erased everything that you've learned from sport, what's the one lesson that you would keep?
I've always felt that sport kind of mirrors like life. I don't think it's any coincidence that you see people that were successful as athletes are often really successful in their next career.
Yeah.
Being an athlete at the highest level is something that's for
Yeah.
young people. I just think that work ethic is the most valuable thing that I've learned in sport. It's that nothing comes without work or without paying a price. Nothing is free. Nobody gives you a medal.
Yep.
You have to earn it. Earning it isn't something that happens in the moment. Earning it is a result of years of day after day after day,
Right.
hard, quality, focused work.
Yeah.
Whether your event is, a canoe race or a basketball game or a track and field race or a swimming race or whatever, or whether it's like a sales presentation, landing a contract or whatever, these things take work. You got to put in the time and pay the price to be successful. So I think that's the one lesson that is more important than anything else, because
Yeah.
if you believe in that, then you will end up doing all of the other things that are required to be successful
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
But if you don't believe in that, then you're never going to launch, really, right?
Yeah.
So.
And obviously you love that process of putting the work in and doing the training.
Yeah, I mean, I love it in things that I enjoy, like that have value to me.
Yeah.
I have no interest in working 80 hours a week, on Bay Street or something. I don't care how much
In an
money
office
somebody
somewhere.
would pay
Yeah,
me. Like
yeah.
I just that doesn't do it for me.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like I in something that captures my imagination, I'm totally committed to that process, and I enjoy that process.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yep.
All right. Well, for anybody watching who wants to keep learning from you, follow you on social media, where's the best place for them to find you?
I have an Instagram. It's Larry Cain Canoe. It's probably the best place to follow me. This stuff you'll see is like a lot of paddling stuff, a little bit of dog stuff.
Yep.
But mostly, it's not my personal life. It's more my paddling life,
Yep.
my sport life, and my coaching life. If you're involved in paddle sports, then I think you can follow me at Paddle Monster.
Yep.
I create a lot of content that's directed towards people that want to be good athletes in paddle sports.
Yep.
I do think, there's things that athletes in other sports could learn by reading the content there, in the same way that I, read content created by cross-country skiers and triathletes and speed skaters, because I learn from them as well. But that's kind of where you'll find me. And I can't promise to be the most entertaining. It's going to be the most entertaining feed, but that's
always
that's
some
where
good
you'll
nuggets.
find me. Yeah.
Always some good stuff. Okay, I'll put the links in the
Perfect.
comments below.
Thank you.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, Larry.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.